Hello, I just want to give you a quick overview of when I talk about explicit and implicit data, the future of the CRM. What I look at is Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn, who recently sold his company for billions of dollars. I talked a little bit about the web, and then one of the things that he said is that the future of the web will be all about data and how we utilize it. And he goes through and he talks about the difference between implicit and explicit data. So the initial implementation, and so when we take a look at CRMs, I believe the same thing, that implicit and explicit data will be the future of CRMs and the way that companies utilize it to understand their customer engagement score. So an example that I have for you, when we talk about implicit data, that's data that the customer gives up, allows us to categorize the information and sort it. So when I come into my CRM, salesforce.com, and I go to accounts, one of the analytics tools provided to me is the list views. And one of the list views that I've created here is based on producers. I want to see all the oil and gas producers that are operating in Western Canada. This is explicit data. This is data that I put together in my instance of Salesforce that tells me a few different things. In this particular case, how many total wells have they drilled in Western Canada in the last few years? How many facility licenses have they done in Western Canada the last few years? How many existing facilities do they have, and what's their carbon output? And then I kind of put a score together which combines these numbers to score them out. So I can come in and I can look at this data. This data, again, is the explicit data. I can get this data from our EnterLead service, which is public-facing information related to oil and gas activity in Western Canada. What becomes more important when we look at this particular set of data is the implicit data, the data that you're collecting about the customer, allowing you to rate your customer engagement score. So what I have over here, in this case, I'm managing or counting all my proposals, and I'm calling them quote logs. So I'm counting them up. I'm saying how many quote logs am I having with a customer? And I want to look at the value. What is the total dollar value that I've quoted out to that customer? And then I look at how much have I won? And I also want to look at my activity levels. I want to see the last time that I contacted that particular customer and understand where we are in the process. This one screen allows me to really summarize the concept. I've got explicit data, oil and gas information, and I have implicit data, my activity related to that particular customer. And it's the combination of those two pieces of data that allow me to really rate out, understand what my customer engagement score is, and allow me to identify areas that we can focus on. You can drill it down and make it more specific. So I put together Producer Saskatchewan as an example, and when I look at that, I'm now taking a list of companies that have drilled in Saskatchewan. And again, we do the same thing. We take a look at the explicit data, the oil and gas related information, and then we compare it to the implicit data, the activity level that you're doing with that particular customer. It's pretty simple. When I drill down in the account, the CRM system has made it extremely simple for us to be able to capture that implied data. So if I decide I'm going to go in and I want to take a look at my contacts, so we're able to go in and understand where we are, how many contacts do we have, what roles do those contacts play, how engaged am I with those particular contacts. So if I decide I want to call this particular person, what I'm able to do is I bring up their contact record, and on my side is as easy as being able to, if I've called them, I'm logging a call. If I want to do something new, I'm assigning a new task thing, I'm going to call them, or I'm going to email them. So in this particular example, I'm going to say that I called this person and type in this is a test. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this particular activity. So I've now taken some implicit data, some call data that I've given, a conversation that I've had, and I put that towards my engagement score associated with this particular customer. As we move down the path and the customer says, hey, I like you, I like the products and services you deliver, I'm going to prepare my quote, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to log that particular quote into the CRM system. and allowing me to again associate this sales opportunity that I have with this particular customer and applying it to my engagement score. So I'm going to say that I've quoted him and that it's $1,000 on this side of it. So we go ahead and we save it. So now I've started to populate the CRM. You can see how easy it is to populate that CRM with your implied data. I've had some conversations with an individual. I've engaged with him. We're moving down the road. He's given me an opportunity to propose information to him. Now when I come back and I take a look at, go back to this list view, which I'm always measuring myself against, and I go into the one that I set up for myself that I want to target companies in Saskatchewan, I now start to see that, hey, I have my top companies. This is the activity level that we're looking at. And then ultimately, how many quotes have I achieved? What's the dollar value? How much have I actually won? And then my days since last activity. If we keep it close to zero, that's great, because that means today we've had our activity with the customer. If it grows out to 20, 30, 40, it's telling me that we need to engage with the customer. The other things we look for is white spaces. So again, if I'm using my explicit data to create a campaign, say these are the companies that I want to focus on, and then I look over at my implicit data and I can see that I've never quoted this customer, I've never contacted this customer. It's now the opportunity for me to create an initiative to say I want to go out and I need to do something with this customer. Another example of how we use the implicit and explicit data, I can go to my dashboards, and again, I might use a dashboard that I put together called the new facility license last week, or new well license last week. So I'm using explicit data. I'm using the well license information to go in and see who's been drilling wells in the last 120 days, and I can come in here and I could take a look at unfortunately my list view here didn't show up, but I can look at who has been in doing well activity in the last week, and then what areas that they're looking at. So I'm looking at different pieces of explicit data. Then I can come in here and I can look at my actual report. Then I brought it up and I can see the account. So here's ARC Resources, here's the well licenses they have. But again, we come back to our applied data. When was the last time I called this particular company? How much opportunity have I had with this company? This becomes a trigger for me that I want to go in. I'm focused on the Anti-Creek-Montney area. I can then click through to ARC Resources and start my process all over again. So it becomes kind of a closed loop. I look at my contacts, identify which contacts do I have, who do I have to actually contact, is there anybody in there that I should be focused on? If not, then who do I need to reach out and talk to from a new customer perspective? So that's an example of the future of CRM as I see it, the ability to use implied data and explicit and implied data to help us go in and manage our customer engagement score.